So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate the absolute references and relative references and mixed versions of these references. And these can be very useful in Excel in a number of things. And they are invoked by putting dollar signs around the reference cells that we are using. And the function key, the F4 key, also comes in handy here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a 5 by 5 matrix here, and just simply to distinguish the rows and columns. So I'm going to have the first row as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and the second row as 11, 12, 13, and the fifth and final row will contain 41, 42, 43. So now let's refer to these values in different formats. So first, let's refer to this value, A1, without putting any dollar signs, and see what happens. So if I now pull this to the right, let's see what happens. As I move it to the right, the reference cells also move. So I refer to B1, C1, D1, and E1. Now, if I actually paste them down, so what happens is as I go down also, the references move. So this is now A3, A4, A5. So I get an exact copy of the data I have in cells A1 to E5. So the 5 by 5 matrix is exactly duplicated here. Now let me start by using the referencing, but in a different way. So I'll choose A1, and I'm going to invoke the F4 key now. And in your system, you might have to, in my system, I have to press the function. Otherwise, the F4 key does something else. But in your system, it might be directly F4. So now F4 also, you can put the dollar signs by yourself. Okay, but F4 is much more handier. So what happened now is that this reference now got fixed. So if I actually copy this reference, like in my covariance example, I was subtracting the mean of the variable from all the values, and I didn't want that mean to move as I was copying the formula down or to the right or to the left or whatever. So if I copy this now you can see that it's only 1 because my reference does not move. No matter where I copy it, because I put the dollar signs, it's A1. So I'm referring to A1 now, no matter where I paste my formula, going to the right, going down, upwards, to the left, doesn't matter. So is this the only way? So that is absolute referencing. So, but there are 2 other versions. I might want to keep the columns fixed, and I might want to keep the rows fixed. So let's do that now. A1, and now I press F4 2 times. So now the dollar sign is to the right of the letter. Now the first one is obviously 1. So as I go to the right, it moves. So it becomes B1, C1, and etc. But now let's see what happens if I move down. And interestingly now, if I move down, it doesn't change. So basically putting the dollar sign to the right of the letter, as you move to the right, it changes. It moves the cell to the right as well. But as you move down, it keeps the row stable. So it still refers to A1, and it still refers to B1 here, but not B4. Okay, so it doesn't change. So let's do the other kind of referencing now. Refer to A1. Now let's press F4 2 times and the 3rd time. Okay, now the dollar sign is in the front. So the first cell is the same as usual. So now let me paste it below to demonstrate that. And now it changes. So when I go down, it changes the cell reference um, as I go down from A25 to A29. It also moves from A1 to A5. But let's see what happens if I go to the right. Okay, but now when I go to the right, it doesn't change the reference. Okay, so the first column is repeated throughout. And in the previous example, the first row is repeated throughout. So to make an interesting demonstration, to let you maybe remember this, so let's create this multiplication table. We generally used it in elementary school up to 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to actually transpose, paste special as transpose. So I got now the numbers from 1 to 12 in the first column and numbers from 1 to 12 in the first row. So I want to get numbers like 1 times 1, and I want to get maybe 10 times 11, and I want to get that number here. And how do I do it? By just changing the first cell. So now what I want to do is I want to multiply this, and I'm pressing F4 enough number of times to get the dollar sign in the front, times that, and I'm pressing F4 enough times to get the dollar signs to the right. And let's see if this works. So now if I paste it to the right, I get, well, it seems to work fine. So let me paste it all the way here. And there we go. So we've got, effectively, we created this multiplication table. So what is 12 times 3? It's right here. 4 times 3, it's right here. So I can also maybe make this bold. Okay. And we can see this better. So this is the multiplication table. So different ways of referring to another cell or other cell groups by using the dollar signs, effectively three different versions to make it absolute and to make it mixed. So as we move to the right, the rows move only, or as we move down, the columns do not move. Okay, so